always named Archistar right from the get-go?
No. So, I did a PhD. I started out in university, and the first thing, I called it was like the Institute of Digital Design, which is like, just rolls off the tongue, so, that was...
Gives you some legitimacy, right?
Yeah, it's like we're, Thank you for having me.
Welcome to Los Angeles.
Yes. Yeah,
how often do you make it out here?
I come here a lot. I'm from Sydney, Australia. It's a long flight over here, but I'm here probably once a month. Like I'm here for a few weeks, but we do a lot of work in Canada. So out of Canada, out of the US. LA's great. Like it's a single flight, Sydney to LA. So it's a long flight, but it's at least it's one flight. So it's
so now we have to address you as mate so that you feel
mate is good. Yeah, that mate works. That's all right. Yeah.
Well, you're the architect behind what we are attempting to do here with bringing AI and getting back home faster. So just walk us through the process of how this all began.
Yeah. Look, I'm an architect by background, but I was always interested in technology and how can that help speed up the process. So I did 4 degrees in architecture. I finished my PhD, but my PhD was in generative building design. And, I think with design, there's always like that. There's that like art to design, but there's always the science to design too. And when you do generative design, you need to know what the rules of the design are. Like, how does it work? How does it function? And in the early days of generative design, it was all about doing some crazy stuff and, what could this look like? But as, that started to mature, and we were pretty fundamental in shaping, like how that works for building design. You had to get more and more specific about the design, how it came out, and we started Archistar about 10 years ago, and we put that out to the market, and the first thing we generated was just a box. It was like, wow, like this is cool. You can generate this box, and then slowly we started to refine that into like buildings, and we started with kind of apartment, like condo buildings, because that a lot of rules behind that, and what's the min max you could do.
And this was when the software was actually creating the design.
Yeah.
So is this, you mean like generative design, like Grasshopper used to be?
Yeah. So
Maya, all that stuff.
Yeah. So
building upon itself.
Exactly. So what are the parameters for what your design could be, and then what's possible?
Set those rules.
So what input will generate the respective design?
So it could be like maximum height. What's the density I want? What's the maximum space? So all the typical things that you would do for a building design, like we started to input those in. And, you start early days in tools like Rhino, Grasshopper, all of these tools that's where people are experimenting with. I probably started even before Grasshopper on generative components and a few of these tools. But if you look at Grasshopper and all these tools, like that's individual architects writing their scripts, sometimes in a firm, sometimes on their own, sometimes putting into a toolkit, but it's localized, like your firm does something, your firm does something. And when I was doing my PhD, one of the things I did, I was a lecturer, and I taught technology to first years. And I had about 500 students every year that I was teaching all these tools to. And you look around the world and you look at what everyone's doing, and it was the same types of things in different, like you're doing that script to do that, you did a curvy tower, you did a curvy tower, and everyone's kind of doing similar things. And I thought, well, what are we trying to achieve here? What are we trying to do? So when I started Archistar, we said, could we take some of this computational logic, this generative design, we generate buildings that made sense? And we started on a map, and we said, look.
So just for me to understand, basically something like, build me a house that is so high, that has so many rooms and this and that square footage, and then it
pops it up.
Does that.
Yeah. And if you look at a house, like, sure, like there's lots of options, but if you look at an apartment building, like a set of condos, and you have a bigger site, there's lots of options, like for how you could lay that out, and figuring out which option is the best option. That was something I figured out in my PhD. If you generate 5,000 designs instantly, great. Which one's good, So you've got to build an analysis.
You're just throwing the darts in different
it's like, is that one better than that? Who knows? So there's a big thing on that is, what's the analysis? What can you compute? What can you analyze? And can you put that as criteria together?
So what I learned about creativity is creativity needs a set of rules to actually be productive. If you have creativity without guidelines or rules, it's like my 3-year-old painting on the wall. It looks like all over the place and nothing comes out of it. And that's pretty much...
So the more rules you put in, the closer you get to something in reality. Like, okay, I can see that's actual rooms. That makes sense. Like, you can escape this building, the setbacks, it all works. But you go too far and there's no creativity. So there's a balance between like full creativity on this side and then like no creativity. And we kind of struck a balance at some point by putting this out to the market, getting feedback from architects, developers, and fine tuning it over time.
Was it always named Archistar right from the get-go?
No. So, I did a PhD. I started out in university, and the first thing, I called it was like the Institute of Digital Design, which is like, it just rolls off the tongue, So, that was...
Gives you some legitimacy.
Yeah, it was like we started off around training and teaching, and so it was kind of like an institute. But that wasn't really, it was hard to pitch that and market that. So, and at that point, it was mainly around teaching people how to use technology. And then we started moving into software and how can we build this stuff.
So prior to what Archistar is now, as we know it, it is, generative AI for helping people get through understanding the rules imposed by municipalities.
Exactly.
But prior to that, were you actually using it for making architecture? Did you have a firm that specialized in this?
So I worked for architecture firms, but I never ran my own architecture firm. So when I went into Archistar, and founded that, it was around building tools and building software that others could use. And the interesting thing was, once you generated designs, and you could do that, you could pick a property and say, I'll generate a design here, it gives me 50 options for a building, and I can just pick through. The natural thing was, and I think you asked the question, what's the inputs? What are the parameters that drive this?
The constraints.
Yeah, what are the constraints? So you could we said, we'll type it in. Like, what the rules are, you type it in, 10 stories, maximum 12 stories, figure it out. And then because this was generating buildings so fast, it's almost like a curse. It's like, well, if you can do that, like, it should know all the rules, right? And it's like, sure, like, that makes sense, it should know all the rules. So we're probably naive at the time when we said, let's do it. Let's get all the rules in here. It should be pretty easy. We started to go like city by city. And it's like, let's bring these rules in, and then all of a sudden, like, the rules don't match up and they don't line up, and the city calls it something different to that city.
So all of this started in and around Sydney?
Yeah, in and around Sydney. And we were getting clients and customers from all over Australia. So it was like, we were based in Sydney, that's where we kind of started. And it's like, but we had to put the rules in for everywhere in Australia. And Australia, it's big in geography, but it's like, some key states, there are a certain amount of rules. Some was more aggregated than others. But piecing all that together to drive design, it made us think, how do you start to digitize zoning rules? Like, they're in PDFs, they're in websites. There's no standard format.
It's always open to interpretation, misinterpretation, hence the back and forth between professionals and regulatory bodies.
Exactly.
So you can kind of slice right through that.
Yeah. And, we got better and better at digitizing those rules. This is the maximum height. Actually, there's 3 maximum heights. If you did this, that's your height. If you, did a high quality design, you could go higher, you get bonus height. So we had to figure out, how do you layer in?
In Malibu, we have like 23.
23. It stops becoming so black and white, which is why generative design is interesting, because there's not one answer. It's like, well, the answer could be 50 things, and our customer, we originally thought the main customer would be architects using this, but we got a lot of customers in that were property developers looking for the next opportunity. What can I do? What's the highest and best use? And they would always come to us and say, well, what's the number? Like, how many units can I get? And it's like, can I get 100? Can I get 105? Can I get 95? And it's like, well, it depends, like, you could get 95 if you made them bigger. You could get 105 if you made them smaller. Like, maybe 100's a good number. Well, 100 to 105, that makes or breaks my project. So is it 100 or is it 105? So there is this balance between I need to know what the answer is.
Yeah.
Versus,
how many options can
I give? And
which is kind of what a city asks for. Is it up to code or is it not? It's like,
it's like the black and white.
I'm a little bit pregnant. It's one or the other.
So that's so that was an interesting thing. So what we then started to do was, knowing that there was this flexibility, we started to build in intelligence and said, well, let's look at everything that's been built around you on that type of land, that type of zoning. What have others done? Okay, well, you did a design and you got 98. You did a design at 102 units. So can we start to piece that together and start to predict, not only based on the rules what you could do, but based on precedent, like what have others done, and make that evident and say, here's why we think it is this. Because look around you, like they got it done there, they got it done there.
Are you doing that in an automated way, the collection?
Yeah. That was all automated, yeah.
And so the system is getting stronger as it's
everything that comes through, it gets better.
So it's learning, it's training, it's getting better. Classic AI.
When are you going to map the whole world so we can get ourselves down the street?
Yeah, it's the interesting thing was, we built that all out in Australia, and a lot of investors, a lot of funding, to build this out. And, it's great, but when you try and map that out everywhere around the world, it's a big task. And at the same time, that we're doing this, one of the big things we did was we digitized zoning rules. And we got approached by the Australian government and they said, this is really cool that you've digitized the rules and you're generating designs. Could you use that same technology to check designs for compliance getting submitted? Because that's one of the major bottlenecks, right? It's that permanent workflow, going back and forth, and could you do that in a completely automated way? And let's see how this works. So that's where we kind of said, okay, this is speculative. What if? Can we use the same type of technology to check designs coming in? That's where we kind of, I guess, pivoted in a sense to see, is this possible? Because at the time, this is 4 or 5 years ago, no one even heard of this, and it
wasn't a full pivot. It was kind of just an expansion.
It's expansion. Yeah. So, so that, and if you look at what we do on the generative design, now partnered with Autodesk, we're now embedded into the Forma ecosystem, and that's evolving and continuing to evolve. But now we've got kind of another pathway, that's generating designs.
To your knowledge, the only company in the world that's doing this?
No, I since we worked on it, we've seen other startups and stuff in parallel working on stuff. You do see now, there's a lot of people in the generative design space. So everyone's kind of got their own unique flavor to it, and they generate different styles of designs. So it's an interesting space, and I think that for me is the future of design. It's you're generating designs, and you're not and you can craft them. I think it's AI, generative, human as well. Because you can just generate stuff, but I think to get really good results, it's that craft.
Mm-hmm. There's going to be an art to it. People are going to learn the art and make it their own.
Yeah. And a question that I have also, in the plan check and permit review, how much AI is there? Because it's not generative, right? So when we say AI is checking our plans, AI is more a good database that you've built.
No, so when you submit your plans, you'll design your plans in CAD, and then what you submit to the city is PDF. So you lose all the intelligence. It's all gone. So we've got a digital set of rules. This is what the city says. This is what I've checked. This is what you need to check. You need to comply with this. When you submit your PDF in, we've now got a dumb set of pages, drawings. It doesn't know that's a building. That could be a piece
of line work.
It's line work.
Could be this.
Exactly. Whatever it is, right? So we need to use AI to read that floor plan, annotate, understand what's what. That's a bathroom. That's a kitchen. That's a door. And we're reconstructing from a dumb PDF.
So the human makes it 3D, 3D makes it 2D, and then the software
it's so backwards, right? It goes in a loop.
It's not when you upload a photo of a text to ChatGPT, recognizes the letter.
Recognizes it, and then it understands.
So they also told me that we can submit with our BIM model.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
So if you want to circumvent the whole process there, you could start at BIM or CAD, and you could circumvent that and just go straight in.
So architect can read that.
Yeah, exactly. So that I think is the future of this, where you're an architect and you're getting real-time compliance. You know?
Yeah. So 5 years ago, you were asked that question for the first time. How long did it take to actually run the first set of plans through it? And
so 5 years ago, we built it direct from the architect, real-time compliance. From like you starting at the design, it doesn't make any sense to go off the PDF. But the issue is that no city at this point in time accepts, send us your CAD or your BIM, and that's your review. It always comes out.
And then they open whatever they want to see, right?
So step one is to convert the artwork back to a house.
Yeah.
Step two is check it against the database.
Exactly. Yeah, essentially. Yeah.
So how did this, when the fires broke out, Steadfast LA reach out to you? Did you sort of think that this could be a useful tool? Walk us through how the connection was made and how it sort of came into being.
Yeah, like Steadfast reached out to us. They've got a lot of good partners in there. And, we have been doing a lot of work, not just in the US, but in Canada. We're working with the city of Austin, for example. We've got a lot of press and media out there about the other cities that we're working with. So I believe Steadfast found us by the other work that we're doing. And we went through like a pretty rigorous process of like, does this tech even work? And we had, we'd already talked with LA County, LACD before. We've been working with the ICC, the International Code Council, on the building code. E-check, checking plans against the building code. They were part of a pilot in that via the ICC that they were already exploring this technology. So it wasn't completely new to them, but Steadfast did, bring it to the table. And when you have such a big disaster, there's so many homes that need to be rebuilt. Already, cities under the normal load of their day-to-day, they're already under the pressure.
LA County, Malibu, we aren't known as sort of vanguards in technology and things like that. So the first meeting when you walked out, what did you think? That these guys are never going to get this? Or what was the reaction?
It's surprising. And I think there's a perception like with cities around the world that like old school, this permit workflow is a nightmare and like everyone complains about this stuff. In my experience working with a whole lot of different cities is that they want to do better. Like they want this process to be better. Like there hasn't been technology that does this. So, you've got the tools that you have at your disposal and you do the best that you can with that. And you get stuck at the point and, I think there's so much you can do. When they are exposed to this technology and they see what this can do, they get it and they're excited, and it's like that spark goes off, like, this is what we wanted. Like, we want this, like, it's not like I never get the sense from a city that we don't want to advance. We don't want to see better.
They have to go through their own red tape to establish it.
Of course, yeah. Well, it's, it is a city, you've got to go through all the right processes. Like, it's like with government, it's just, there are processes you've got to take, it's not a private company. It's a public, it's representing the public. So you just have to
deal with that regimen.
You've got to go through that.
And when people think about AI, they immediately think, okay, AI is coming after our jobs. And to what extent have you encountered that as a resistance to adopting this? And then to what extent has it actually panned out or not at all?
To that, and also to the loss of control. That there's always a fear, right? Like, what if we miss something?
Yeah, and this is a big fear. Like, it's something that we come across all the time. You introduce technology, you introduce AI, like, this is going to help. Check it, and that's one of the first thoughts. Like, what does this mean for my job, my day to day? And it's interesting because we've worked with some cities that have done like a parallel test. It's like how, when you're reviewing the plans, the plan checker gets the submission in. If you do it in the standard way, the normal way that you do it, or you do it augmented with an AI report, how fast can you do that? And, we've seen like on this side, you do it standard, like it might take you 80 minutes, 90 minutes to do it. With the AI check, we saw they were doing it in like 20, 25 minutes. So 75% faster with the AI tool. And the reason why they can be so much faster is that, you've all dealt with floor plans before. Like every architect is unique and great. Like that's awesome. Like you're doing a unique design, it's a unique plan. You've got your own style. It's part of your brand. But when you submit those drawings in, the first thing the plan checker has to do is just get their head around your drawing set. Where's the information? How did you put it down? Exactly. Did you do it in the same way that person did it? So they're looking at this and they're saying, okay, like where is the
process of understanding that?
Understanding it first, right?
A certain amount of time,
yeah.
So Archistar kind of eases the understanding process for the plan checker. Does it give them a list? Like the way you described it earlier, is the feedback that comes back to the design professional is a list?
Yeah.
Does the plan checker get a similar list?
Yeah.
So that would speed up anything. I mean, when I have like a lot of stuff to do, I just make a list.
Exactly.
Click off every item. So you're giving them that
We're giving them that list. So as an architect, before you go, first of all, you get the list and you say, I overstepped here. Like maybe I should fix that up. Or no, I need to do that. I have to, it's this side is like this and I can't do anything. So it just raises it up. It highlights it like that's there. But you get a standard checklist that every time it comes in the same. So, if you're looking at building code and you need a fire sprinkler in every bedroom, great. There's going to be a check, which is on fire sprinklers. And every time you click that, it's going to say, do you have one in each bedroom? Yes or no? And look, I'm going to show you where they are on the plans. Don't even worry about looking for it. It's here, and that bedroom doesn't have one.
By the way, we don't need to show the sprinklers in houses. That's why. For the moment.
So, but it's surfacing the information, making it readily available.
But it will tell you, hey, that room doesn't have a door.
Doesn't have a door.
Exactly.
There's going to be 2 doors. Yeah. Wow. So, and if you as a plan checker know that I'm going to get this in the same format every time, regardless of, you can design it in however way you want to do it, you can present it however way, but you know that it's going to come out sanitized into a standard report. It doesn't get rid of it shows you on the original drawings where the stuff is. Super powerful.
And you go ahead.
Well, so it seems like that the plan checker is now doing the higher order stuff that the software can't do readily. And we are utilizing the plan checker's time for doing the more esoteric stuff and checks where the basics are kind of covered.
But it's more the architect who uses it, not the. So in this case for Malibu, it's going to be a service for the architects to check their plans before they submit. And then the reviewers will do their standards.
It's got benefit on both sides.
Yeah, so it's going to be a better solution.
So the architect will use it, check and say, I'm going to fix this up and, I'm going to make this higher quality, get more ticks.
So no excuses for corrections.
And that will stop the back and forth.
Yeah.
If you were going to go back and forth 3, 4, 5 times for information, maybe it's just one, let's clarify this. And, so you simplify that. But then on the plan checker side, they now have the information easily available, highlighted, ready to go. It saves them time on how long it takes to...
Especially if we can submit with your score report, it's like, hey, they already checked it, so now they'll give me more corrections because it was already checked, right?
I think that there could always be something else that, you're part of, you triggered this, that's not included.
Like an overlay.
An overlay that pops up.
The answer that you receive is kind of like, these things look right, make sure that they are. These things look wrong, make sure that they are. And these things don't make sense to me, check those. Is that kind of the result?
Well, there are some things that is like, these require like a manual review. Like this is subjective, and sometimes, these planning rules, they're subjective. Like it needs someone's, so we'll cover as many that are.
So is it like probably yes, probably no? I don't know.
Yeah, like you need to like someone's got to look at this.
Yeah, exactly.
So in Austin, do you have numbers of how how long have you been implemented?
So Austin's going live very soon.
So
Vancouver's been live, right? Is that
Vancouver's live? Yeah.
So the numbers of efficiency, do you have metrics?
Yeah. So they're all going through, and I think if you look at any of this process, and as people in this space, how many times you go back and forth with the city, and there are like reports on this, like from McKinsey and all that, like just actually quantify how many times people go back and forth, and if you improve that design and you're submitting it better with, I'm demonstrating here, I've done a good job of this. I'm trying to meet the criteria.
I'm submitting an Archistar verified design.
Exactly.
Yes. And it's demonstrating to the city, I'm putting my best foot forward. I'm preparing this in a way that here's all the information. I'm trying to be as compliant as possible. If you were going to go back 3, 4, 5 times, even if you cut out 2 of those times, you've saved 30% of that time just by the nature of, I've got to do these resubmissions.
And that time period in Malibu is 6 months, right? The back and forth is 6 months to 2
and I think
years.
to that point of, do staff need to fear that is coming after their jobs? It sounds like it's just going to create more productivity, and you're just going to get a faster turn, especially in the wake of such enormous volume that you have to process.
Yeah. And there's so much work to do. They're not running out of work to do. There's a lot of work.
We need a staff. Yeah. How many people in the staff?
We got so many openings that they're trying to fill.
For Malibu, you know how to read plans. Do you know how to read soils reports? 60-page soil report.
Where we are applying it to those types of reports to find out what information needs to be surfaced. So it should be standardized. So it's this is all new technology. So
we're treading you're blazing trails for everybody.
And that's why,
And is there, at some point, I don't know if the functionality already exists, is as, let's say it's Archistar verified, and then the plan checker comes back with a few more corrections.
Yeah.
Is there sort of like a loop that the next time it's going to learn?
So we work very closely with the cities. So if we're doing 50 checks, and then it's like, oh, this looks great, like tick, 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 it's all good, and then we send that gets sent through, and then comes back to the architect and says, hey, good, but you failed here. Then it's like, yeah, good, but you failed here. So what in that process? It's like, why isn't that one getting through? Why isn't that one getting through? Oh, because, it's on this document over here. So it's like, well, can we start to bring that check in? Don't let it go over to there. Can we start to bring some of those checks in? So it's collaborative. We also want the architects that are submitting in to say, hey, this was good, but I failed here. Let us know. The city can let us know, the architect, where
it's all about. It's just going to keep getting better.
The user feedback loop is as important as the initial build out.
Yeah, and that's why we've launched out in LA City and LA County, and we've said this is in beta, it's in training, submit in, you're going to get your full report, but we're going to learn. And a good example is that we had one submission that come in and it was a like for like I'm going to rebuild, and you can move things around a bit, as long as it's similar to what it was. In this case, they moved the garage, and it's like, okay, that garage is moved. It's not too far. It's within the tolerance. But when the county looked at it, they said, oh, now that you've moved it over here, there's not enough backup space. When you reverse out, you can hit the side yard. It's like, well, where's that rule? It's in another section, different document. So
25-foot radius.
Exactly. So it's like, well, if that's going to be a thing that needs to be checked, why don't we bring that in? So now when you do your Archistar e-check already, there's now always a check that checks the minimum backup space. So that's an example where, by people submitting
there's
in.
A time frame when iterative process hones it in until you say, okay, we're out of beta now.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what's happening now. So we're encouraging as many people to submit in, and maybe the time frame, to get your results back might be a bit longer because we're refining, but you're still going to get a really good result back. But maybe what you submitted in makes it better for the next person,
Does it respect certain differences within the city? For example, a certain section of the city is in a landslide area that has special rules, and it respects that?
Yeah, so we tie it into the city GIS systems, and we can see where the overlays are. So if you're in this particular region, and a good example is in Altadena, they have their own community standard district in the county, so different rules apply. So you've got the base rules, but when you're in Altadena, there are additional rules that apply, so those get overridden because it recognizes that you're in that community.
When do you think we'll be able to submit in Malibu to Archistar?
Yeah, so Malibu started a bit after LA City and LA County. we got LA City, LA County up in about 6 weeks. We're probably about halfway through. It's extremely quick. It's their live. Yeah, so people can submit in.
Today, there were LA architects that submitted.
Absolutely.
But is it optional?
It's optional. Yeah, it's optional.
Okay,
yeah. So, but we're encouraging people like submitting.
And what kind of adoption are we seeing in LA so far? Like, what percentage of architects are using?
You know, we when they announced it out, we got a flood of applications in. So, you know, I think within like 2 weeks, like it was like over 100 applications. We do know from the city and the county that going through this process, it's helping them. You know, it's fast, it's making it faster. So, you know, if you are submitting in to LA City or LA County, like a like for like, or, you know, even the zoning, like just
like
standard
plus
house.
10% as well.
Yeah, that's right. So it does that, but also, if you just want to design a new house, like we're still checking those as well. So, run it through the process and get the results, and it's going to help.
So we start. Go ahead, Jack.
So kind of a bigger picture question. Since you've been implemented in Vancouver and Australia, have you seen ripple effects of Archistar in as much as it takes out the drudgery of design work? I mean, when I was working in that field for private industry, people in the firm, they hated dealing with AHJ because it's a mental suck. Yeah. You've kind of made that easier for everybody on all sides.
Yeah.
Has the design work in areas that have implemented it just skyrocketed in terms of refinery? Because now there's that freedom to have mental gymnastics pushed into your work now, because you're not, you know, going over red lines and trying to discern what those remarks were. It's all, you know, easier.
I think that's like, when I think about this, and I think for the architects, I think that's the potential of it.
Yeah, exactly, right?
You know, when you're designing, there's so much going through your head. Like, you're trying to be creative, you're trying to get the best solution, but what's the dimension there? Like, have I got this right? Have I met the minimum criteria? Like, often you want to exceed that. So how far can you push it and still, you know, stay compliant? Like, so I do think that, you know, a lot of people, when they first hear about this stuff, it's like, oh, it's kind of like, you know, limit design. You know, shackle me, like, I think it's quite the opposite.
It's freedom.
It's freedom. You know, it actually, you know, constraints and checking things lets you.
And on that note, is there a thought of putting out architect version of Archistar that can be licensed by design professionals for use, or does that already exist?
Yeah, so the city of Vancouver's already doing that. Okay. So they're encouraging architects to use the tool themselves. Like we talked about the CAD and the BIM version. They're saying we want architects in there iterating, testing, you know, trying out.
Plug-in and Revit, right?
Yes,
you can add on.
Sounds to me like that's the
elevation design.
Right? That's ultimately we want every architect practicing in a municipality that is utilizing Archistar to self-employ.
Exactly.
So how long did the implementation take in Vancouver? How long was that beta phase?
Yeah, look, you know, for a lot of cities, like we recommend like 3 months implementation, you know, 3 months of testing, you know, and release it out in stages. Like you don't do every building in
So 6 months total, but it could be a little bit more, it could also be less.
Yeah. What we learned from LA is it can be done a lot faster. You know, like, like we're talking like 6 weeks and it's out, you know, and the beta version. So I think it's around.
Does it depend on to get it to be implemented faster or slower?
I think it's the messaging around it. It's like, we want to get this out sooner than later. We want you to start using it. You're going to help guide it, and, you know, we're going to learn from it too.
The more submissions you get in a shorter amount of time, the shorter the implementation takes.
And I'm guessing it's also a level of, you know, how perfect you want it to be.
Yeah.
If you want it to be 80% or 90%, and it probably has a long tail.
A longer time to do it. Yeah. And I think that's just that's a mindset.
Yeah.
You know, I think in LA, because of the urgency, you know, you've got so many people without a home. Like, it lends itself, let's get this out sooner than later. Let's get the improvements, and let's increase those improvements as we go along. You know,
I mean, let's pick the low-hanging fruit.
Can you get the quantity of submissions?
Let's pick
one of those opportunity and disaster scenarios. Right?
Yeah, and you know, I think a lot of that does drive that innovation, that push. You know, and but you know, it's either approach is fine. You know, like, if you take longer to do it and you refine it more, like maybe there's more checks, you know, maybe there's more, you know, there's been. I mean,
I'll tell you, our city, definitely Malibu, has turned the corner from initially being somewhat skeptical to not really being sure of how this is going to help or not. And I had a conversation with them this morning, and they were extremely bullish about it. I mean, they sort of can't wait. And for the first time, we are sensing that they are sort of hands and feet into it, trying to make this work. Is that sort of your sense as well? With
like the team in Malibu, like particularly, they've been awesome. Like they've been really good, collaborative, very fast, very responsive in working with us. So, there's a little bit of interpretation, in this. Like it's because every submission, every design is unique. So if you had, the rule that are like, some rules apply to everything, it's like, it's just black and white. Some rules, it depends on the situation. So I don't think in those rules, there's always a black and white answer, and it could go this way, it could go that way. What this tool does is it says, well, which way do you want to go? You're going to come to here, there's 4 possible options. Do you want to allow flexibility there and design it in a way that it allows a range? Do you want to say, no, in this case, let's put a human to look at that? I think having an active community that wants to see, progress, that helps. It's, you've got your voice there. This is what you like to see. You want things to be better.
So Luis, that guide you keep asking about, it'll come through Archistar. It'll be digital. It won't be written.
Maybe we won't need it at all. It's just behind the scenes. So shifting gears, Ben, just a little bit. So if you were to forecast the future of Archistar, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where are you taking the company? Are you expanding horizontally? Would you want to have more geographic areas that are covered, or are you taking it deeper to develop more functionality and generative capabilities and so on and so forth?
I think it's a bit of all of that, right? So if you go wider geography, the more cities using this, it's the same standard. Every city's got their local rules, but same system, same look and feel. So the more cities that you bring on, if you submit to Malibu or now LA City, you're going to get the same style of feedback. The plan check is going to get the same, so it starts to standardize it. So the more cities that adopt this, the better overall. And you also learn from the other cities too. We adopt and we evolve based on feedback we get from other cities.
Maybe bad, maybe they learn, look, they limit it. We aren't going to limit it.
Yeah. Well, you start to get insights, around what that is. And that's good for the city to know because they're not used to having this information in a digital way.
So cross-fertilization of cities doesn't happen very often. So this is a medium for that.
Hopefully it's a common denominator of simplifying throughout instead of making more complicated, which is what code is. Code is reactionary. Darren always says this.
Yeah. Code. And you could imagine that we're both checking the setbacks here. And this city, everyone passes, it's straightforward. We can say that 9 out of 10 people pass that rule. This city, 1 out of 10 pass that rule. Why? Because you're trying to, but we're trying to do the same thing here. And it's what if we compare every city on how they did that setback? You all want to do it. That's fine. We get it. These, 50 cities, the way that they've written it, they do it really well.
Better written.
These cities, maybe you want to revise your wording or look and learn from some other cities. I'd say it's, opening up the door to collaborating. So I think, there's that aspect of learning.
Are you collecting that data so that a city could come to you and say, do other cities do that better? And then you'll be like, yep, I tell you how.
It's all Tesla for driving and Apple better.
Yeah, it's people are submitting in, they're getting reports, they're seeing that standard report. So, we're aggregating that up, anonymized to say, this is where you perform up. This is where people get it right, get it wrong. So, I think over time, it'll become something that, cities get together and compare notes. How do you do things, and there's a lot of conferences that these cities get together. They'll want to talk about, what we do good, what we could do better, and how someone else done it. And they'll turn to
and you're at a unique place to be able to sort of assimilate the data.
Well, if they're all getting out their results in a similar way, they can say, Malibu, how did you go on this? And, you can start to share. You've got a common language to talk about things. Half the time it's you can't even, today you wouldn't be able to compare to say, how well does rule, 74.2 work in yours? I don't know, maybe you don't even know how many submissions trigger that clause.
Exactly.
If we went to a city and said, pull me up every submission where clause 82.5 was triggered. How do you do that? You can't do that, With this you could.
Wow.
How many times does the protection of the chimney exceed the side setback? There's 62 projects in the last year where a chimney went into the side setback, and 32 of them exceeded it.
So we could be getting a better building code.
So how far away, Ben, from Archistar analyzing the plans, feeding it to an Optimus-like robot, and then it all getting built up without us moving a finger?
We've been in this space for a long time. Like, as I said, I did a lot of degrees in this. I've been at Archistar, we founded it over 10 years ago. 20 years in the space, and we started with generative design. And you can think you can generate any building, I think that if you look at, we're in a beautiful house here, designed, design by you. There's an art to design. People like unique, good quality design. And I think that the computer, you would generate stuff and things would get efficient, but there's always that artist touch to it, and that designer, that creativity that, people want unique stuff, so I think if everything starts coming out, the same, I think first of all, it'll start to adapt and evolve. But second, what happens to architects when you're in a world when you've got access to this? How do you differentiate? Can you take something that's generated and add to it? And, if you can get that out really quickly, what do you spend your time on doing? And I think naturally whenever a technology comes out, people learn how to use it to their, how do I differentiate on? And, what we see come through the system, there's super creative designs, and there's more standard designs. This is assessing both of them, it's giving you a report, and it doesn't fail you because you're creative. It just checks, you can be as creative as you want, but did you just overstep and go, are you touching your neighbor now? You can be creative and be within,
In Malibu, you're gonna have fun, because sometimes the lots are not there's no square lots.
Of course.
In Austin, everything is a grid. Here we have lots, and which one is your front yard setback?
Yeah.
So those, in the code, you see that it's determined by the planning director.
Yeah.
Sometimes, or there's so many things, so you're gonna have a lot of fun trying to figure this one out.
We're focused on delivering a good solution to the industry, to government, and that's what we're looking at. It's just stay the course, and just deliver good results.
And the implementation process in Malibu has started already, or
yeah. So it's underway.
So we can expect the 6 weeks from LA.
It's getting close. It's getting close. So. We're in regular meetings, because of, the time frame is we're meeting with them, regularly.
The energy has definitely shifted for sure.
Yeah. So what we do need is, it has to be designed on the land. So if you've gone to this software and you've come up with a design and it's kind of in a bubble, it's not positioned on a site.
I can adapt it to my
If you bring it into your survey and you show it on the land, then technically yes. As long as it has the details, we typically need the site plan, you need the floor plans, you need the elevations and the sections. If you've got the standard drawings, then it can go through. We've already seen hand drawings come through.
You need to get a license now.
So how do I get access to it? I'd be super curious to just play with it.
So when it goes live in Malibu, via the city's website, it'll say you try out the AI tool here.
Okay.
And then you'll just click it, you'll get a free account, search your address, and then I couldn't be.
So after 2 submissions, I need to create a new account under a new name.
No, you have to demonstrate a fee-waiver thing.
Remember the house.
Remember the AI. Knows who you are. The first time you submit, you're going to get a good checklist of where you need to improve it. The second time you submit, you're probably going to get a lot better because you know where to fix it up. If you're trying to do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 submissions, just go and speak to the city.
Just talk to someone.
I'm really trying to solve this, to a live agent.
There's a human factor too, right? At the beginning, especially, I assume that there's someone checking before you publish your results.
Yeah, when we're at this early stage of beta testing, there's a human QA bit, and then also obviously, like the city does their formal review too.
Sure. So it's not a formal.
It's not yeah. So I do think that like over time, like what City of Vancouver is doing, they're encouraging architects use the tool in your design workflow. So if you've got the plugin and you can start doing it, you could do it 100 times. Like check it as many times as you want.
Yeah, if it's built into the software,
if it's built in as a real time feedback. Maybe we encourage you to do 100 checks, like because let me tweak this and let me check and refine, and you become like.
So how deep is your partnership with Autodesk at this point? Like, are you having those talks? How do you plug it into Revit?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we've already got plugins into AutoCAD. The Revit plugin's almost released. Like We're working through that. So we've got a very good partnership with Autodesk. They were part of the funders of this program.
So interesting.
Well, this is fascinating stuff, Ben. Yeah. And I think the cool part about this is the residents are counting on it, and it's got a tremendous upside and purpose to it, right? I mean, even if one family gets in their home faster because of this, it's a win. So thanks for all the work that you and your team are doing.
Yeah, and look, we know we come out from Australia. We've got really cool tech that is going to help a lot of people. And, when you put into that context, like every submission that goes through this, a lot of people talk about AI, but just put yourself in like the homeowner who's waiting, to get back into that, and I think if they can run this through this, it speeds up the time, they get in there faster. Like it's a big win, and every one of those is a win. And there's a lot of wins that we're gonna get out of this. So we're excited to be here, excited to be helping out, and thank you all for advocating and pushing and trying to get things better. Because
it's one of those things in which there is no opposition.
Yeah,
it's like it's a slam dunk winner. Yeah. We're just looking forward to it.
And until now, the residents were excited about it, and now after watching this, they know what they're actually excited about.
Yeah, it was like AI.
And when
what does it actually do?
When Malibu goes live, like all these listeners, like if you got your plans, like get them ready to submit them through. Like don't just try it out, and it's going to help. So we encourage everyone, go for it.
Cool. Yeah. For listeners, you heard it from the man. Don't wait.
Exactly.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ben.
Sounds good.
Thanks, Ben.